on music, and we'll help you find some guests. And so that's just what they've done.
Awesome.
So super excited to kick things off. Hashtag marketing for the now. Let's keep the conversation going. And first up, we have Kara Swisher. She is my idol. She's the host of Pivot and Sway podcasts and contributing Recode, Decode podcast for over 5 years, and an entrepreneur behind Recode and Code and Revere Digital. She also co-produced and co-hosted the Wall Street Journal's D, All Things Digital, the major high-tech conference featuring Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and many rock stars in tech and media, and was a highly revered reporter at the Washington Post. Welcome, Kara.
How you doing? How's it going?
Hey, Kara, how are you?
Hey, Barry, how's it going?
It's really nice to see you. It's fun for me to be on the other side of this. I get to ask the questions.
Good luck.
I'm going to do my best here. Actually, let's make it very simple for me.
Sure.
As you think about audio, we set this up as what's the future of music, audio, and sonic, and that can be sonic branding even in 2021. As I pose such a wide question, obviously you've just been so incredibly strong in the last decade around podcasting, but even as a consumer of music, and obviously your consumer behavior around digital is so omnipresent. Mm-hmm. How do you take that question? What are the first things that pop up, things you're seeing, things you're intrigued by?
Well, I find they're very different things. Like they're all different things. I'm not sure what sonic is. I'm not quite sure what sonic is.
Sonic is like the Intel sound or the Netflix sound. There's a lot of fun conversation around brands and individuals even having a sound for that quick 1 second as we continue to consume content. But I'll let you go.
100%. Okay, so I really do think a lot about audio. And as you know, I've sort of shifted my career rather significantly. About 6 years ago, I was a reporter. I ran a big website, a big tech and media website. It was doing really well. And I really, I grabbed an intern and went and did Recode Decode. It was me and an intern that did it by ourselves. And I was luckily working for a place, Vox Media, that were like, okay, we trust you to do this. And the reason why is I've done so many live events as you've done, and you've also been a very big pioneer in this area. And I saw the real resonance of this as the technology started to really be available in the way people consume these things, with a fan base that really shifted from a written fan base to one that is in your ear in an audio format. And so that's not unusual because music has been like that. You have personal fan relationships with the music you listen to. So it shouldn't be unusual that you have the same thing with podcasts. And you saw some very early podcasters like Mark Maron and a whole bunch of them that really did create, and Joe Rogan, that created this really unusual situation. And so I had been doing interviews on stage at the Code conferences and All Things D before that. And we had no problem selling those out because people like that in-person live experience. But I think more than anything, they like the talking experience. Rather than being told things by reporters, they'd like to hear the whole interview so that they can judge for themselves. It also gave people a lot of agency. And so when I started doing them, I just decided I could only do 16 a year of the big names like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, but then I could have hundreds of people that you don't know of, and people you need to know, and ideas that you didn't have, and you could really chew over ideas. So after I started doing them for Recode, and we got to 500 or 600 of them at one point, which is amazing, which is an amazing body of interviews. The fan base was crazy. People would come up to me on the street and felt like they know you. I'm sure this happens to you. I was in the Target the other day and was like, I love you. I love this. And it was like, it never happened when I wrote for the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, and stuff like that. And you really do give them a chance to be part of the conversation. And then the next iteration that's happening now, besides doing, I do Pivot and I do Sway, and Pivot's sort of a fun, analysis thing. The other's more substantive interviews. Is these live events that I do both on Twitter and then Twitter Spaces. I'm not using Clubhouse. A lot of people are using Clubhouse. I get it.
Is there any reason you're not, Kara?
I don't need to create my Instagram in another place. Like, I want to see what Twitter can do. I don't feel like starting another thing. And
Kara, I've been saying for a little while now that I think Clubhouse absolutely has a place, but I view it similar to Snapchat, where I thought Snapchat had a place, and then the stories feature became a feature across platform. Yeah. Do you think that
It's a feature.
Spaces on Twitter is going to be a feature we'll see Facebook
Feature.
and others
Yeah.
add on. Yeah.
It should, 100%. I just don't see it as something that has a lot of moat around it. I get that there's lots of people there, and maybe they can, like the way YouTube did, essentially, because there were a lot of people.
Do you
in
think
the
it
videos.
can, do you think, I'll take advantage of having you here because you're
Sure.
such a great thinker on these things. Do you think it has a potential to have that similar play as Snap as the original thing of the thing, and then everybody has features? Or did Snap have the luxury of having so many more users before anybody copied their feature, and Clubhouse may just not have that luxury?
I don't know. I don't know, because people are creating their intergraphers. They're doing their shows, and that's where they're locating. It's just like Substack. That's where they're locating. It's just that they can move. You know what I mean? Like, I can see, like, same thing with Substack, all the others. When you think about these things, and that's not audio or that's not music or things like that. But if you can move easily, I feel like that's a problem for any business. And you could create when you have better options. And so I'm trying Twitter Spaces only because I just don't feel like.
And how do you like it?
I like it. It's a little glitchy, but it's getting there. It's getting there. I get, you get thousands, but I get lots of people. Like, I do them on Friday nights, and I get like up to 1,000 people. It's crazy.
Wow.
It's like,
Awesome.
which is great. And
And
it's
do you like hosting that party?
yeah, I do actually a lot, because we have the live where I talk and I answer written questions, and that's great too. The live Twitters, and they work out really well. But I bring in guests and people want to hear from, and then people pop up in it. It feels very like that. I get the what's it called? There's just the serendipity of it. I really like it,
It's
and I
kind of
like
like being at a conference, right? Like,
it does.
You might be doing your thing. There's people listening, a lot of people listening, and then as you're walking to your next thing, you might see somebody you know, and you're like, "Hey, why don't you join?" There is a little bit of that going on, no question.
It's more like talk radio. That's what it reminds me of. That's what it really. It's less than a conference. I know they're describing it as a conference, but I feel like it's because that's still broadcast one to many, even if it's in a live space. This is like talk radio, and what I found really interesting is two things. One,
you mean people calling in,
right, and getting the chance, and they want to talk to the people, and
the
especially
only difference, I'm sorry to interrupt, is with the way you visually see it, because of who you are, there are going to be many people interested, and you may be interested in the person that's interested, so you can bring them in, whereas with talk radio, that might be a little bit more challenging.
Right, that's you don't know who's calling. Yeah, so it's like even better talk radio. And
exactly.
and what's amazing is people have stayed really civil. I was sort of a little worried about people popping off and stuff like that. And there's a way to get rid of them quickly. I haven't had to do that at all. The questions are intelligent. People really are dying for conversation. People are a little lonelier now.
Do you think that has to do with the framework you've created as an individual? Like, that makes sense to me. If somebody said, "Hey," if somebody called me and said, "Hey, are you paying attention to Kara Spaces? It's really civil." I'm like, that makes sense because of the way she rolls and what that audience
Yes, it
looks
works
like.
For me. It doesn't work. It'll work somewhere else. It doesn't work for everybody. The other thing is, I wonder after the pandemic, when people are outside, like whether they're going to keep doing this. That is a real obvious question, and it's not a fresh new one that I've come up with.
It's a fun question, but what's interesting is, but it will be more there's an argument for more of it to happen as people micro on the go. It might be just a more entertaining music or podcast.
Absolutely.
Or commuting. I think what people don't understand is a lot of people are consuming less audio during pandemic because they're not on the move.
Right, 100%. I think we'll see what happens with. We've had growth. Everyone's like, but podcast. We've nothing but growth for both my podcasts. What's really interesting to me is the bigger trend, which is about fans, and you have pioneered this quite a bit. But not just this. Look at what Taylor Swift is doing with redoing her albums. It's all. I mean, Ben Thompson wrote a great piece about this. It's all about fans, like whether it's Cameo. Whether, I just did an interview with the Cameo CEO, and everyone's like, why? I'm like, are you kidding? This is a direct line to fans. The same thing with NFTs. The same thing.
You just took the words out of my mouth.
It's about people creating fan bases. And so the talent, even Substack, the talent moves to the front and is collecting the money. And so I think what's happening is what Taylor Swift is doing right now, I don't think people are appreciating quite how fascinating
I agree.
it is.
Because the middle is losing its leverage.
It doesn't have leverage. It's just showing that it never did, really. It just got away.
Well, it did because of the way distribution worked. And an at-scale internet with an at-scale blockchain, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, bad news. These are only 10 minutes long. I can tell you.
Good. All right.
Thanks,
Gary.
you for doing this.
Have a good show. All right, cool.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Next up, we have the incredible Ryan Tedder. Ryan is a 3-time Grammy Award-winning songwriter, investor, and entrepreneur. He has worked with everyone from Adele to Paul McCartney, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, John Legend, and more, in addition to being the lead singer, writer, and producer of One Republic. Ryan is also a producer and mentor on NBC's Songland, which has just wrapped its second season. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Ryan, it's great to see you.
Good to see you.
Team, throw up the question after you throw up Ryan. Ryan, we'll get right into it because it's only 10 minutes. I want to get all your brilliant thinking. For
We
everybody,
both talk really fast, so we're good.
we're gonna do damage here. I think Ryan is I wish in his intro it said is an entrepreneur and then went into all the things we all know him for, because he really is. When you think about the future of music, audio, and sonic branding in 2021, let's use music since we have the luxury of having you. Give us an insight, because you are so ear to the ground of trends, consumer. What's catching you off guard? What do you think people aren't talking about with where music's going in 2021?
I mean, obviously, we stumbled in the last conversation into the NFT thing, right? Non-fungible token. That personal one-to-one interaction with your fan base is absolutely the most vital. You guys, I loved where the conversation went just a second ago into Taylor Swift of it all. I've worked with Taylor on a number of records, and she's a savage, and she's going to reclaim her own fan base, and she will remove the middleman, which is the label. I knew that was going to happen the moment she called me and told me she was going to do it. I was like, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. Look, albums are malleable now. I have this conversation incessantly. I'm executive producing 7 albums at the same time right now. I just did the single with John Legend for Space Jam 2. Like, I'm doing a ton of other things in music. Nobody can pull the levers anymore the way they used to pull it with songs. So I'm working with Lil Nas X on upcoming stuff. I'm NDA'd out the butt. I can't talk about. I signed the writer that wrote Peaches for Justin Bieber. I signed him 3 weeks before Peaches came out. We got lucky and it went #1, right? I knew that he had some hits coming. I didn't know it was going to go #1. Peaches, by all intents and purposes, should still be #1, except a little thing called Lil Nas X, who is the biggest marketing genius in the history of the music industry by far. I've been betting on that guy from day one. The moment I saw the video, the moment I knew that he was doing the Nike dropping the shoes release, like the satanic shoes that he then got sued by Nike. All of it was so brilliant, but it highlights one very, very important thing. Music industry has shifted to a degree where the song itself is not the driver, right? Historically, if you had a great song, now it's not to say great music can't rise and cream won't come to the top. There will always be those anomaly unicorn songs that pop off regardless of marketing. It's going to happen. But you've got Ole Oberman coming up here soon, who's a friend of mine, ByteDance, TikTok. If you don't have something that's active right now in TikTok is the new MTV. It's MTV, it's radio, it's posters on telephone poles. It's all of it wrapped into one. And if you either don't have a fan base that is nuclear hot, the marketing prowess of a Lil Nas X, or a song going off on TikTok, you're in trouble.
100%.
You're just in trouble. I don't care how good the song is.
By the way, Dick Clark, the local disc jockeys in big markets, MTV we just talked about, The Source, Rolling Stones magazine. There's always been curation. The difference is the platforms that curate now are empty vessels. And it's the artists and the teams around them, their strategy, not
100%.
I'm not no longer I run MTV and you and I are best friends and I'm going to put you on 800 times.
Can I give you a 30-second anecdote? All right, so I just worked with Portugal, the man who did, Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks, man. Right. That they're an indie band from Portland in Alaska who had never had a hit in their life, and then Feel It Still goes off and smashes. The second I heard that song, I heard it 2 days after it came out. I played it in the background at a pool party. I was like, this is smash. Like, this is a no-brainer. I asked them last week, I said, who at the label flagged that as a hit? They said, everyone at our label didn't like it, and it was like relegated to track 5 or 6 or whatever on the album. Nobody thought it was a hit, okay? First, the intermediaries don't know, right? And I'm not crapping on labels across the board because there's some phenomenal A&Rs, but the best A&R in the business, at least at some point, had the ability to pull levers. The internet, the world, culture has taken over music. Conan Gray, who's
by
a
the way,
friend of
Ron,
mine.
I apologize to interrupt because you're rolling. The world always did. There's been a ton of smash hits from 1987 that the world decided not everybody thought. The difference is, to your point, the label used to cut songs out. Now there's almost no reason to.
Correct. There's no reason to. There's no reason to.
There's no reason to.
No, there's no reason to. And I hate saying more is more, but more is more. I mean, Conan Gray is a prime example. He's on Republic Records. Superstar kid, artist. Dropped an album a year ago called Kid Crow. Did okay, did fairly well. The song that he begged the label to put on, called Heather. It's the only song he wrote by himself, just him on an acoustic guitar. 7 months after the album comes out, somebody grabs it, does something on TikTok, boom, biggest smash he's ever had in his life. Counting Stars, which we put out 6 years ago, went viral 2 months ago. The head of International calls me. What are you guys doing with Counting Stars? We're getting 1.2 million streams a day on it. Turns out some dude in like Austria sped it up, put it on TikTok, people danced to it, it went off. The point is, nobody knows. Everyone who thought they knew knows even less. Nobody can control what it. Nobody can control what a hit is anymore.
Real quick.
Yeah.
You also said Lil Nas X is the greatest marketer of music history.
Period.
So you said nobody can control. I counter because I know
artist can. The artist.
Yeah, if they're the marketer.
If they're the marketer. Period. If you're not pulling the strings, authenticity has such a more pleasant smell than perfume. And anything else you try to perfume a package with, authenticity will cut through, right? So when you're doing authentic...
I apologize. This show started with my 12-year anniversary, at least on a legal document of starting Vaynermedia.
Yeah.
12 years ago, the thesis was, oh my God, technology is going to kill everything in the middle completely. And the only thing in the world that's going to matter, besides the skill itself, because even if you're good at hacking, the thing has to still be good, is the ability to communicate in the modern moment. And so I decided to eat shit for 12 years and build an agency to have a machine behind me. And that's basically been the entire conversation so far between Kara and now you.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% what it is, man. And I'll cut to the NFT of it all, and I'll cut to also blockchain music, which I think is...
We've got 2 minutes, so I'm giving you everything.
I got 2 minutes.
Go.
So look, I'm EPing 7 albums, which is the most I've ever done in my life, which is, I don't even know, 7 times, 10, let's say 70 to 100 songs. These are some of the best albums of these artists' careers, according to them, their label, their parents, their wives. But I have no control over which songs will go or which won't. I've removed the stress factor from that. The world will decide. So the democratized music has changed. We used to be able to gas a song from a number 10 to a number 3. We can't do that anymore, right? We can't do it. So let's pivot into modern music. Non-fungible tokens, NFTs, is fascinating. I'm doing my own drop with Origin Protocol. I think they're, for me personally, the best in the space right now. It is such a unique way of interacting with your fans and creating art for art's sake, and scarcity makes something valuable if you give a shit and you actually care about it. And I said this, NFTs is an ocean. Don't get on and try and hop a wave if you don't even have a surfboard and you never know how to surf. And a lot of people are getting on and trying to surf the wave, and they're falling apart. Like, this is an ocean. Build a boat and then make it bigger and make something people want to float on. In the NFT space, that's my analogy for NFTs in terms of art and music. Now, where it could go, potentially in more disruption beyond Spotify and everything else, and I'm poking at the space now just to see, but the idea of, there's a company called Rocky, it hasn't done a whole lot yet, but their whole thing is music on blockchain. Like putting songs on blockchain, a streaming service on the blockchain, where you're getting paid directly. You're getting paid directly from the consumer, and the consumer also is getting paid in incremental little bits of blocks, or you can call them Satoshis, right? They're getting paid to listen. So there's an interest of where this goes. I don't know, but I've been betting on the blockchain for 4 or 5 years. So I'm a believer that somehow decentralization is coming in every single category.
It is.
Transparency, authenticity, decentralization. That's the theme for the next 10 years.
See you, my friend. Love you.
Peace.
Next up, we have John Coyne, VP and GM of Brand, Creative, and Media at Intel. John is responsible for brand product identity, global creative, and social. John's team just launched the biggest rebrand in Intel history, which includes a reimagination of the famous Intel Sonic Bong. The OG Sonic of all Sonics. Oh, and most importantly, Gary, John is a die-hard Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Welcome, John.
Great to be here.
I didn't like that Steelers part, John. I was just playing around.
I was wondering if you were here with me or against me.
I'm very against you. I'm a Jets fan. You beat me in 2 very big playoff games in the last 15 years that broke my heart. I went to Pittsburgh for both some great people, but devastating outcomes for me, including one that was the ticket to the Super Bowl, which I've not been to. You've been to many. I find you greedy and not letting us win that game. But John, I'm really happy to have you here because as the question is about to pop up, the future of music, audio, and sonic is the theme here today. Yep. To me, the Intel sonic branding is the Mount Rushmore, and that to me is such a big deal. And I believe that the entrepreneurs, small businesses and big businesses that are listening here should be creating a sonic brand and should be using it in every piece of their content. Every one of my videos on Instagram start with Gary V. It is to me, incredibly important. Spit some wisdom and share what you're allowed to with us around sonic branding, where you see sonic branding, and then in the way that Andrea set it up, it sounds like you'll be able to get into a little detail.
Yeah, happy to. So I came to Intel about 4 years ago. One of the reasons I came was because of the incredible brand. It's one of the most valuable brands in the world, and it is because of the kind of the iconic brand elements that Intel has, including the Intel Bong. It really is the kind of the original sonic audio branding device, and it's one of the most valuable assets that Intel has as a company. And we, as we just talked about, we're going through a pretty dramatic brand transformation that we launched last fall, aligned to where our business is going. And as part of that, we wanted to reimagine how people experience Intel and make sure that we aren't just a company from 50 years ago when the company started, but we are a company and a brand pointing towards the future where Intel is going. And so we looked at the Intel Bong and saw it as an opportunity to reimagine it a little bit. So what we did is, as part of the brand launch, we updated the Intel Bong. It's not been changed much over the years. It's the same 5 notes. It's the same kind of melody that everybody knows and loves. So that it hits your ears in that way, but it also will hit your ears a little bit differently. So you hear it's a little bit fresh, a little modern, maybe a little bit contemporary. And we've got kind of a low intensity bong, a high intensity bong. We've got custom bongs that we're making that fit on the content in a certain way. Because one of the challenges that we had is our bong often lives on our partner content. And it would kind of just land on the end of it, kind of abruptly and not necessarily integrate really well. So one of the things we wanted to do was to be able to create versions that live kind of more organically with the content that it exists with. So that's what we've been doing. But I have to tell you, the key to the bong, and I would say to somebody who's trying to think about how do they create a sonic audio mark for their company, I think the key is consistency.
Of course.
We as marketers
love to change it up, but you pounded John, you pounded this sound in my mind. By the way, real quick, Derek Hunter, I see you in the comments. The way I process information is by biting my nails. I know that it is not a great enjoyment for people that care about grooming, but for me, it has worked for 40 years. I will continue to bite my nails because it helps me process and think, and John is dropping some wisdom. John, I think that's exactly right. I think, that matters.
And by the way, I find that a lot of Jet fans have that same problem.
No, John, listen, John, you got 10 minutes here. I'm more than happy to make it 5. Don't get me crazy.
Honestly, I think the key is the benefit of Intel. Why does everybody know Intel Bong and love it? Is because billions of dollars, literally over 27 years, has been spent drilling it into people's heads. And I think one of the things that we have to fight is just the desire to change and lose interest and want to do something new. So one of the best things that any company can do is think about what is that consistent thing that I can deliver over and over a period of years, because it takes people a long time to actually be able to internalize and to hear and to remember that sonic device or that tagline or that voice, that font that you're using. We've got to really understand that for people to start internalizing it, it takes time and repetition. So be patient, stick with it, don't lose interest in 2 years, and you will find that truly it will pay off.
John, to segue in our 4 minutes, you the human, not the executive.
Okay.
Where are you with podcasts? Do you listen to them? Don't you? And based on what I like to iterate along the way, based on what Kara and I were talking about, have you found yourself consuming more or less of it in COVID versus where you were pre-COVID?
I'm absolutely obsessed with podcasts, and I'm obsessed with Kara as well, and I listen to her podcast. So
I love that.
It's an honor to be on here with her. I found that especially in the pandemic, when I've got kind of more time, I'm listening to more podcasts. I'm getting more variety. I'm getting more voices.
Give some. I think giving shout outs and cosigns is good karma. Give us 3 to 4 to 5 or 1 or 2 or 3. Give you another second to think of what you're actually listening to. Podcasts that you really enjoy and why.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely I like Kara and Scott. So with that, both of their podcasts. I love The Daily. I listen to anything on NPR. Just a variety of podcasts there, and it's just and I'll just listen to industry ones, things on marketing, different things, and that's also the fascinating things with that's going on with Clubhouse and other things like that too. Is I'm just
are you spending some time in Clubhouse?
Yeah, I'm just experimenting.
And do you like audio because you're able to do something else as well, whether it's walking the dog, working out, in the background, cooking, drinking, like, do you like that?
You hit it. I listen to podcasts and audio when I'm riding my bike, which I try to do as much as I can. When I'm working out, when I'm walking the dog, those are the big three. I'm always doing something else. It's very rare that I'm just sitting down doing one thing. I'm always doing 2 and 3 things. And listening to audio, podcasts, it's just a great way to engage myself kind of in that other dimension. And just even this morning, I had a few minutes, jumped into a Clubhouse conversation about marketing versus sales. It's like, okay, that's just great. While I'm doing something else, I get to stimulate my thinking. And I just am obsessed with podcasts. And I think
do you find yourself, are you a better learner from audio than you are visual or written word, or which one of those 3 tend to sink in the most?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've found as I've gotten older, my eyes aren't as good. Audio is totally my best way to learn. Honestly, it's just because it gets in my head, and I'm able to kind of process thoughts almost without working at it that hard. It just kind of gets in there.
John, final thoughts. A lot of entrepreneurs in the chat as well. How should small, I own one pizza shop. I'm an influencer. They see you, that iconic thing, billions of dollars spent to get there. What's just a practical thing for them to think about with Sonic branding? Do you think they should go the route of making one? And if so, how should they think about deploying it?
Yeah, I think you've got to think about your community. That you don't have to be Intel where you're 100
for the world.
Yeah, exactly. But you're a pizza shop in your neighborhood, in your community. Obviously, there's lots of great, really targeted digital ways of reaching customers in your area. And I think just think about every time you're kind of delivering that message, if you do develop that unique just signature, that starts getting that mnemonic in your customers' heads about, oh God, that's Tony's Pizzeria, whatever that audio mnemonic is. Just be consistent. You don't have to be big. You don't have to be global.
Yep.
You got to be relevant. You got to know where your customers are, how to reach them.
Simplicity.
And just be consistent. Just try it. Just go for it and see what happens.
John, thank you. It's such a pleasure.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me here. Appreciate it.
Our next guest, Carrie Champion, is a broadcast journalist, TV personality, and podcast host of The Brown Print. Carrie is an expert host for multiple hit shows, including Vice TV's Carrie and Jamel Stick to Sports, Amazon's NFL Next Live, TNT's The Arena, NBC's reality competition series The Titan Games, which was created and presented by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Carrie continues to break barriers and pave the way for younger women of color who want to pursue a career in broadcasting, which is why she founded Brown Girls Dream. Welcome, Carrie.
It sounds like, Karen, are you okay? There seems to be like a robot going on. I think an alien robot has taken over your audio. We can't hear you, Karen. While Karen's trying to figure that out. Okay, team has put me on. Team, Andrea, I'm fine with if the next guest here and maybe the team can work with Carrie. If not, I'm happy to hold down court for a little bit.
Sounds good. Do we have Curtis in the house?
Yay! Why don't you do the intro, Andrea? And we're curious to get her audio set up.
Kirdis Postel. Kirdis is Amazon Music's global head of artist marketing and works directly with artists across a wide range of genres. Since joining Amazon Music earlier this year, Kirdis has led marketing efforts for key initiatives including Breakthrough, Amazon Music's new Developing Artist program, Amazon Music's Friday Live series, which has raised money for COVID-19 relief efforts through live performances from Dua Lipa, Katy Perry, and Tim McGraw. Kirdis also worked extensively to lead Amazon Music's efforts to support communities affected by COVID-19 crisis, with artists including Megan Thee Stallion throughout the pandemic. Welcome, Kirdis.
Hi.
Hi, Kirdis. How are you?
I'm good, Gary. How are you?
It's really nice to have you here.
Thank you.
So, how is it navigating these? Amazon's such an iconic global company. The music initiatives have been really, really revving up, and so kudos to you and your team. How are you thinking about, music strategies, music consumption, music trends in a 2021 world? When I paint it that way, very, very broadly, where does your mind go to right away?
Well, there are a couple of things. I think, first of all, working at a music streaming company, music streamers have to evolve, right? And become more than just a music store. Artists and their fans are looking for, other opportunities, and they want more than just a big catalog of music. So we're working to make Amazon Music a home for creators, right? Like if you want to create a podcast, if you want to, an artist, like they put all of their heart and soul into this music and they want you to hear it the way they created it, right? So we've got high def audio. If you want to hear if you want your fans to hear your music in high definition, we supply that. Like if you want to stream directly to your fans, like we've got live streaming with our partnership with Twitch that goes directly into our app. Like you've got to be more than just a play button now for artists and for their fans.
I think that's exactly right. What's been the most interesting thing that you've observed with consumer behavior in the last 12 months from your perspective, from your seat looking at this? Has there been anything that is like, wow, if Gary said this was going to happen, if I said this was going to happen a year ago, I would have never believed it, or just a big shift in behavior? Anything stand out when I say that?
I think because of the pandemic, like from an artist standpoint, I'm seeing more artists focus on their broader brand than just on the music, right? Like the music is always going to be the fuel that powers everything else. But, you've always had a couple of A-list superstar artists that had a fashion brand or headphones. But what I'm seeing is that younger artists are paying more attention to their broader brand. I think I've heard, that doesn't align with our brand more in the last couple of years than I ever have. And I think it's specifically because of the pandemic, we're going to hear that more and more. If you were an artist that was relying solely on your music and the ability to tour or to perform live as your means of income to support your career, I think that they've learned a good hard lesson in the last year, and everybody's going to be focusing more on their broader brand. I think from a marketing standpoint, it probably hasn't changed as much as you would think, right? It's still our job to get your music and your brand as far and as wide as possible to give people, fans and potential fans, the opportunity to vote, right? Like,
yes.
So from that standpoint, I don't think it's changed that much. Great content, social media has made that a lot easier. I think, what Ryan was saying earlier about TikTok, it's a destination for artists that,
are you kidding me? You look at the top of the hits, the numbers, what's so great now is it's math. This is not, we're going to give the Grammy to this person. This is math. Who the world's listening to, and you can map what's going on TikTok with the top of the charts in the easiest, most binary, don't even debate with me, this is a foregone conclusion, just because the sheer amount of attention. I had they actually made a video today that will probably come out tomorrow on my Instagram or what have you. I had 3 8-year-olds come up to me just now and say, Gary B, we love your stuff. I'm like, how old are you guys? They're like 8. I'm like, that fucking TikTok boy. You know, like,
absolutely. It's like, I mean, I hear more about TikTok strategy, what's our TikTok strategy, and it's like Ryan was saying, you just don't know anymore, right? You can have the best laid plans, you can create the best marketing plan, and somebody gets on a skateboard on TikTok and, drinks some cranberry juice, and you are out of here.
That's Ocean Spray's most successful commercial in the last 40 years.
Ever. And they, listen,
ever.
For free.
Ever. What advantages, when I think about Amazon, I'm like, man, they are so integrated vertically.
Yeah.
When I think about the streaming things, why artists may want to lean into Amazon. And I'm just getting a little business nerdy. I apologize to everybody. I'm being selfish right now. I think that there is some really cool advantages that Amazon has over other places because of their ecosystem, right? And I see you with that point smile now, so maybe there's some things you can't speak to.
No.
Oh, good. So
I'm happy to talk about it.
Are we in the place where eventually, like, the biggest artist in the world may want to exclusively drop with you guys because she may get her picture on all the boxes that get delivered that week? Like, it feels like you've got Prime, you've got, so many kind of things. To your point, as these artists become more brand oriented, if they want their book to be successful, they may want, it feels as though from afar that there are some real opportunities for integration. Is there anything of that going on yet? Any plans? I'm just curious.
Yep. So I'll tell you, I'm the head of artist marketing, and one of the channels that I manage is something called cross category, which means we are the primary entry point into all of the other Amazon business units for music artists. It's one of the reasons I came here. It's one of the reasons I left, the recorded music world and came to the DSP side, because my passion is breaking artists, right? And Amazon has the tools to break artists and and for superstar artists who you would think, they have all the fans in the world, we can help them expand that fan base even more. And I'll give you an example. A couple of examples. We worked with Carrie Underwood over the holidays. She gave us an Amazon.
Oh, yes, I remember.
Yep, she gave us an Amazon original for holiday music, and we ended up working with the Ring team to position that song in their holiday ad campaign, and Carrie was part of that campaign, right? So something that was supposed to just be a holiday original song for Amazon Music, we were able to partner her with Ring and make that
that's more that's more distribution and awareness for her. And
it was great for the team, right? It worked for the Ring team.
I'm so devastated we've run out of time. I just want to say this real quick. We haven't had a chance to jam in person, but the amount of nice accolades you get from people that we know in common for who you are as a person is something I wanted to say to you in public, not only private. Keep doing your thing. I can't wait to get to know you better.
Thank you. Yes, I'd love to.
Next up, we've got Wendy Ong, president of Tap Music. Wendy oversees an incredible roster of rock star artists, including Dua Lipa, Ellie Goulding, Lana Del Rey, Noah Cyrus, Dermot Kennedy, Haley Steinfeld, and more. Before she joined the Tap Music team, Wendy worked as head of marketing at Rock Nation, where she drove campaigns for Jay-Z, Rihanna, Jaden Smith, and more. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you, Andrea, and hi, Gary. I'm very excited to be on your show.
Thank you, Wendy. That was an incredible intro, and it's such a pleasure to have you. And your background is so beautiful. The flowers make me feel happy. It's raining in New York.
Thank you. That was the whole point, bring spring into your show.
Thank you. Wendy, right to the question, because we're running out of time because we have such a great lineup. What is the future of music, audio, and sonic in 2021? Very broad question. You can take it anywhere. You've been probably listening a little bit in the green room.
I have.
What can you add context to? What did it make you think? What should people hear based on what they've already heard?
So I really took on board everything that Ryan had to say, as well as Curtis, who's a really good friend of mine. And what I wanted to add was, especially for major artists who already have a devoted and loyal fan base, like I'm more interested, and no disrespect to the Amazons and Spotifys of this world, like I'm more interested in fostering that relationship, the direct relationship between the artists and the fans, because they're the only two entities that matter to me. Right?
As they should.
Exactly. I don't know that is actually true of many other companies. I'm not talking about management, but music companies in general. I think that could be a little misleading where their heart lies, I guess. So, my take on your question is, I'd like to explore building independent artist economies that are functional economies enabled by blockchain, and I know that sounds like a bunch of words that are thrown together, but essentially, like I look at like the bigger artists with their devoted fan base, like why shouldn't we have something where, if we were already at this level and we wanted to drop, anything from an album to special merch and all that, and why can't we do it on our own?
You will, Wendy.
Exactly.
Don't want to scare my great partnership at HarperCollins, but I'm going to be transparent right now because I want to bring value.
Right.
I am wrapping up my book contract. I have a big time book coming out this winter that I'm excited about. I was in the process of signing another deal. I'm not sure I will.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called blockchain and NFTs.
Right.
There's a lot of, I'm not a dummy. I've done a lot of homework and I know exactly where this is going.
Absolutely.
And the answer is, why wouldn't I? The answer is, of course, it's exactly what I should do. And so what's going to happen is the people in the middle are going to have to evolve. That is the name of the jungle, right, Wendy?
Absolutely. And I think that's where blockchain comes in. And, everyone that you talk to, like, it's NFT. That is like the big buzzword right now.
It's the moment right now.
It is. But, I think that I personally have concerns that still need to be addressed in this whole world. And I'm speaking as a layman. Like, I'm not a tech.
Yeah, fine.
I'm worried with how white male-centric every person that talks about this is, that is a concern to me. I think it needs to have
more... You know what's good about that, Wendy, though? It's one thing about white tech nerds talking about it. It's another thing to know that it's a decentralized economy, that actually the thing you're worried about with your opening sentence, then you should be most optimistic about this platform because it's the first one that's come along that most addresses your opening concern.
Right. Absolutely.
Just because that's who's first talking about it, that's just tech nerds. That's the math of what happened. That is society. No different than if it was athletes talking about athletes, the demo would look different. Like, that's just the nature. But the actual macro nature of decentralized servers actually addresses your anxiety.
Yes, but that in itself, like, opens up another can of worms, like the environmental impact. And I know that's a very controversial.
It's not controversial.
Well, you get
it's a good conversation.
Right, but you get companies saying like, oh, don't worry about that. We're going to offset our carbon footprint. But are you really doing it? What measures are you going to take
Wendy, you know what else takes an ungodly amount of servers? Amazon,
right.
Netflix. This is new. Your first, I laugh when people, of course it has server impacts. Do you know what it takes to keep up Amazon music service that we just had, or Netflix, or Spotify? It takes servers, and to your point, this is early and they keep evolving. You know what else happens, Wendy? You know what the environmental impact is on producing a CD or shipping it? Or that, like, there's always offsets. We don't know yet where it lands, to your point.
Right. But then, with my artists and their fans, I have to be interested in the issues that make them tick. And these environments.
Wendy, but you also, but real quick, I apologize, but if they're gonna be fair, let's talk about what the apparel industry and what that does to the environment. And I'd like to know the collective amount of money that the t-shirts and the wristbands to Coachella, Like, if what we've come into is a world where people are picking and choosing
Right.
what they're pointing fingers at. And you have to look at that hypocrisy because the textile industry, the clothes, do we really need a hoodie with Dua Lipa on it?
Well, you know.
Well, you know. And I think, and Wendy, it's important because I know we're having a thoughtful conversation. These are going to be the thoughtful conversations that happen, right? Because I think what happens when something new happens is, and you're bringing up the right question, you have to debate it. I couldn't agree with you more. Right. Are your artists, well, I got 3 minutes, I'm enjoying the shit out of this. Are your artists bombarding you with like, Wendy, what the fuck are we doing with NFTs? Has that been like the last 2 months?
Of course they are, and actually, I don't know enough about this company yet, but then I am going to call them out because I think that what they're trying to do is interesting. And it's a company called Rally. And I've only had one conversation with them and I'm not looking forward to having more. But, it very much, like, they are trying to address increasing that fan engagement, building that independent artist ecosystem, like what you were talking about earlier with Curtis. And also reflecting the diversity of all that we're doing needs to reflect the creator community, the makeup of the creator community. So I think, yes, every one of my artists is asking about that, but they are asking with the issues that I've just, you and I were just debating as well. Another interesting aspect to what NFTs are leading to is not just about the, whatever the piece of artwork or video that you throw up, but, it leads to the experiential element of this as well, right? Where it's a digital fan club with VIP access and all that. I don't know how that's all going to play out. I think it's still the Wild Wild West and we're still watching and learning. But live streaming, for example, right? I think that, cryptocurrency could have a big role to play in live streaming, especially now that, when we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. At some point, probably more like next year, there will be touring, right? There will be concerts again. Does that mean we completely disregard how we've learned to work this past year? I don't think so. I think that there is room for a hybrid model. Like we had a very successful live stream show with Dua, with her show Studio 2054. And the reason that was successful is because it wasn't just somebody sitting at home and watching an artist on stage. Like it was crafted like an incredible TV special. You couldn't take your eyes off it. Like there was something happening at every second of the show. And I think there is probably room for a hybrid model of that and for fans to be able to engage more with that kind of show that they are missing out on if they were watching it in person.
I mean, people are, I'm going to like run out naked and kiss everybody's face the second they let me. And to your point, the smart contract is what you're referring to under an NFT that is going to allow for green room access, pre-show, different seating, events. Like, there's so much coming to your world. And I've just been such an admirer from afar of your career, Wendy, and I'm so glad this was the opportunity to jam, and I hope we cross paths again, and I wish you well.
Thank you, Derek. Take care.
Of course. Take care. Andrew, you're on mute.
Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
Let's hope that the robot has released Carrie Champion and that she can come and join us right now. Welcome.
Yay! Hey! It's normal, guys. It's normal. Thank you guys for having me.
Of course, Carrie. It's so great to see you. I'm glad the alien robots have released you, and it's great to see you. And what an incredible intro. You as many know, I'm a fan and believer in work ethic. I think it is one of the ingredients, and I just admire yours from afar. You are a Renaissance woman doing tons and pushing, and I cheer for you.
Oh man, thanks. I appreciate that. You're very kind. I far more of a fan of yours than mine, I'm sure. But you have to understand, we sit around the house and we all talk about, me and my girlfriends, because streams of income, how to make sure you're not worried. I come from a family where we live check to check, and I just knew growing up I would never want that for me. You know what I mean? And my family. And I wanted to make sure I was being smart and learning how to invest, because sometimes the keys are not given to us and we have to find them on our own.
That's facts. Carrie, when we talk about the future of music, audio, which you play in, and sonic branding, which is a more niche topic in 2021, what's your relationship with podcasts, both as producing it, but also because you're so of the modern consumer culture, I'm curious what you're listening to and what you intake.
Okay, first of all, I've been a podcast fan for 4 years, and there's a part of me that feels like, and so by saying this, I'm sure you've heard it before, but I grew up on watching black and whites with my mom, and every time I remember watching old school movies, they would be sitting by the radio and listening, and it was theater. Remember when radio was because there was no? I feel like history is just repeating itself. Podcasts for me, especially during the pandemic, were pivotal. Like in terms of that was the way I kept in touch with the world and I stayed sane. The future, literally, because I had to listen to so many different programs that gave me different perspectives, that gave me some entertainment.
Because social and media and the mainstream media, both social media and mainstream media was so heavy. You're saying that you used podcasting as a little balance of escapism.
It was so heavy. And quite frankly, yes, I too was a part of the heaviness because I would be posting and talking about it.
As you should. We all were, by the way. So keep going.
Yeah, we had to, but then I needed to take a break and I needed to get my mind off of it. So podcasting for me got me through the pandemic, the early stages. I literally would clean the house, turn up the as loud as possible, and it felt like I was actually interacting with people and getting away. The future to me is so bright. I think we've learned now, as a result, this is the way that we are going to be able to do TV shows, the way that you and I are talking now. This is going to be the way in which we are going to communicate to people in a safe but entertaining way that doesn't feel intrusive. There's something about being able to sit at home and listen to a podcast and feel as if you're there and you're having an experience. And I think, honestly, I don't know why we didn't think about that before. I don't know about you, Gary. I always have to be on the go. Go, 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 go. It is so hard for me to leave the house because I am locked in. I don't even want to leave the house. I have at my fingertips, podcasting, producing, watching anything, music, all of it. It is really, truly going to be the biggest medium, if not it already is. Are we watching TV anymore?
I streaming, real quick, Lucia, I'm so sorry. Like I do interrupt a lot on normal podcasts, and when I have 10 minutes and I want 13 things, so I apologize. I feel like I'm just talking to friends, and I apologize to you and anybody else. We're just trying to get to a ton with Carrie. So, Carrie, what about, real quick, just because I'm going to nerd a little bit, on the sports front, who's going to win the NBA championship? I just need your hot take.
Okay, I can talk about this all day with you. Everyone wants to see Brooklyn and Lakers, right? That's not going to happen.
No,
It's not going to happen. So I'm just preparing you now. Everyone be okay with it. It's not going to happen. There are a couple of things, and I'm a diehard Laker fan. I don't know if you know that. A couple of things. I don't think that AD is going to be 100%. I think we're saving LeBron and AD until the very last minute, and I hope that works, but I just don't think he's going to be 100% because I do believe, I'm concerned that his injury is more than what we are hearing. I don't know that. That's just me, my gut. And then I also think on the other end, we're going to watch Brooklyn, and while they're amazing, I think they're going to implode. When's the last time you've ever seen anything like that? This team has so many superstars, and they are selfless, not selfish, selfless, but I honestly believe when it comes down to it, they're going to implode because someone's going to want to have the ball in their hands all the time, and it's going to really start to affect. I'm going to say this. I love James Harden. I think he's amazing, but when you go ring chasing, it never works in your favor. It just doesn't. So if I had to guess, it's going to be a surprising team for us. It's going to be a team that we haven't really been looking.
What's your intuition right now? I know it will change as you get better data down the stretch. This is very far off. Nobody should be able to nail it. So I'm trying to make you feel safe, but I'm genuinely curious. Is it the Celtics, Milwaukee? Who's good?
I honestly believe it could be Milwaukee. I think that they're going to be doing something special. I think the Celtics are definitely in there, but I'm going from the East, and it's not going to be Brooklyn, and it literally will be Milwaukee, if I'm pretty sure. I think our guy needs to feel as if he is tired of people saying that he's not good and he needs help and he hasn't arrived, and he's really going to go hard in the paint. I mean, and by the way, not for nothing. He's just a freak. Giannis is a freak. No one is saying anything about what a freak athlete he is, and he's been quietly making his case. So I'm excited about that.
Okay, I will say that I do think the world has said something about his freak athleticism. His literal name is the Greek Freak. So let's say that right.
Yeah. As the Greek Freak, but he's been getting so much bad press lately, Gary.
No, I agree.
For no reason. I think we nicknamed him the Greek Freak and then we took it back. Well, not me per se, but I think we then dismiss him because he can't show up in a way in which we have already crowned him. And I think he's taken that personally. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so let me ask you, who do you think is going to win?
I think it's going to be Brooklyn and the Lakers in the NBA Finals.
Everyone thinks so. That's great.
Honestly, I just don't see the alternatives clearly enough yet. But like we saw with Miami in the bubble, like I'm also a very big fan of momentum at the moment. I think if you look at the history of sports, it really matters what's happening as you go in.
Who would have thought Miami would have made it to the finals?
Nobody.
I didn't. And quite frankly, I knew that they were not going to do well because they didn't have enough. Nobody would have said they would have made it to the finals. We're going to be surprised. And it's just the nature of these guys are tired. They haven't had any time off. I feel like
that's a very big point because of the limited nature of their break of the off season. That's something I haven't thought about really.
They're exhausted. I would love to say my Lakers are going to do it, and I will say that, as a fan, but I'm like, I know they're tired. They're exhausted. They didn't have any time off, and they were told they were going to have time off before they went back to start the season. They were told they were not going to have an all-star. They would have a break during that time. They did not have a break. They did an all-star. The league has literally made these guys there's no more.
Yep. Terry, final thoughts. What about doing a podcast? What was the biggest challenge? What's the most fun?
I forgot about that. We're talking podcast.
Basketball's fun.
Right. The best part of doing a podcast is that you get to tell really, for me, really creative stories, and it stretches a skill set that I don't think I've had as a traditional sports anchor. As an anchor where you read a prompter and you have to, stick to script, and when you're hosting, sometimes there's a script. With a podcast, you're really, truly flexing a muscle that forces you to ad-lib, think differently, go deeper. All of the things that we necessarily aren't required to do when we're on autopilot in our regular work lives, if that makes sense to you.
100%.
And beautiful. And first of all, you're just amazing. Let me just be effusive about how amazing you are, okay?
You're so nice. One more minute. Have you spent any time on Clubhouse?
Yes. Clubhouse is amazing. I don't know if so I feel like it's a loud room right now. Here's the old lady in me coming out with a lot of people don't know about. Like I've been in a lot of the sports. I literally been in a lot of sports rooms and thinking, okay, this is absolutely
the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but honestly, it's like Twitter.
Have you hosted a room?
I haven't. I would love to.
That's what's happening, right? You're going into rooms just like anything, like any Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's not curated. You should curate one and see what it feels like for you.
Okay, I should. And see, do you love it? Tell me, you love it?
I really like it, and I like the concept of it, and I think it's going to be on every platform, and I like the people behind Clubhouse, and I think they're going to continue to innovate. I like people interacting with each other.
That's it.
That's it.
This is a new way to interact. Is it a way to date? Because I need a boyfriend. Is that a way to date?
You're about to get completely bombarded as you See you later. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Next up, we have the wonderful Jim Malika. Jim is the first ever global CMO in Bose history and a 25-year vet in marketing, media, and digital commerce. Prior to Bose, Jim held senior executive roles for global corporations such as Under Armour, Viacom MTV Networks, the Walt Disney Company, Ralph Lauren, and Nissan. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, Gary. Hey, Andrea. How are you?
Good, Jim. I don't see you popping up just yet. I can hear you.
Let's see. Should be,
should be
good.
Team, you guys see the same thing? I'm just eating blueberries and raspberries. I love hearing. Maybe we'll just do it with no visual since we're talking about audio. But let's see. Team, let's give it one more chance to see if we can get Jim on screen. Oh.
You try it again. Any help?
Nope. Do you see yourself on screen? Go ahead, Dustin.
I came as on.
Hold on, breaking news. Dustin.
Yeah, like his video feed has frozen, but his audio is still coming through.
Can we try to reset him real quick? Maybe go with the next guest and get him back on right after?
Sounds good.
Love you, gentlemen. See you in a second.
Next up, we have Ula Oberman, the global head of music at TikTok. Ula is responsible for negotiating music rights for TikTok and also driving the long-term strategy for music on the platform. Since Ula joined TikTok, the business has grown at pace globally. He's announced a series of new licensing deals and partnerships and placed music at the heart of its future and strategy. Welcome, Ula.
Ula, how are you?
I'm great, Gary. How are you?
Very well, my friend. Thank you so much for being on.
No, pleasure. I love the conversation so far. Very exciting stuff.
Let's just jump on that. When you hear the things that everyone was saying, Ula, about, if you're winning on TikTok, you're now, in the top 100 songs, top 10 songs. Is that just humbling? Is that fascinating? You've been in the game a long time. It's just so black and white. And it's all of a sudden overnight, you're in this incredible power position, which comes with big responsibility. How are you calibrating the fact that you're getting these probably silly questions from labels and artists of hey, can you make my song go viral? All that silliness that comes along with the responsibility.
Yeah. Do you know what? We talk about this all the time. I think the culture at TikTok and the team that we're putting together that works on music, we're obsessed with music. We're really passionate about music. We love the labels, we love the publishers, we love the artists, we love working with the industry. And I want to talk about this a little. There's so many sides to how TikTok is working with those different parts of the industry. And I think it can all coexist in a beautiful way. I pulled a little data sheet here that I want to share with you because I think it epitomizes what's happening on TikTok in an incredible way. I looked at the top 5 songs from a creation standpoint globally for March, right? And let me read you these top 5 artists. Gibeon, Eliado, Los Disos del Ritmo, Zylo, Stefan Do. Do you know any of those? Right, exactly.
No, I'm yes in your world. So yes, but to your point, that's what's happening.
Yeah, right. Now look, that's happening. Those are literally tens of billions of creations in a month for those songs or those artists.
Yep.
And what I hope happens to every one of those artists is, they do the distribution deal, they do the label deal, they get a publisher signing them.
Whatever works for them, right?
Whatever works for them.
That's not your role.
Exactly. But I think it is our role and our responsibility to make sure that these artists get all the right tools and almost all the education to some extent for how can they kind of optimize their chance of success, right? And again, going back to what I was saying at the beginning, that is kind of the ethos of my team and all the music teams that we have around the world at TikTok. We're all building these relationships with these artists, many of whom we've never heard of before, and they're just breaking on TikTok. But then the other side to what those 5 I just read for you, there are 20, 50, 100 major label signed artists who are breaking a new song on TikTok right now. And what we see happen is that song goes viral on TikTok and literally 24, 48 hours later, it's in the Spotify charts, it's in the Amazon charts, it's in the Apple Music charts. And that's beautiful, right? So it's the two sides of it. It's being this incredible marketing and promotion machine, and globally just amplifying music that the fans want to hear. And then it's also giving these unsigned, unknown artists from every corner of the world a chance to find their audience. And that's what I think,
it's invigorating.
It's incredibly invigorating. I mean, I've worked in music.
And I'm sorry, go ahead, finish your thought.
No.
I worked in music. And please, sir.
You go and then I'll finish my thought. You go and then I'll finish my thought.
And sometimes the reason that song went to the moon was some teenager or some 40-year-old decided to dance to it because they stumbled on it. They, as a human in their house, did something creative that people liked, and that became the match. That what an incredible feeling for some people around the world right now who made the original piece of content with an unknown artist song that started, they didn't have a big audience, but somebody that did saw it, they decided to do something, and they're literally one of the reasons that this person's career changed.
Yeah. Right. So what I was going to say earlier kind of segues nicely into this. You know, I worked 25 years in major record labels, loved my time there, learned a ton, have lots of great friends who I'm in touch with every day, and obviously now we can talk about how do we help their artists on TikTok. But I also saw, the reason I came to TikTok, I saw this thing changing before my eyes, and it's the power of UGC, it's the power of user-generated content, you know, and it is the artist and the fan basically having a real-time conversation with one another, and then this incredible creativity comes out of that, because think about the stories that get told on TikTok in 15, 30, 60 seconds, and how music plays a role in telling those stories. Either it's the primary story, or maybe it's the secondary story, but it's the story, right? And that's just exciting. That's what people connect to. That's what they get excited about. You know, and I think that's why we're having all this success.
Where do you sit on audio consumption outside of music, if anywhere?
Yeah, I'm mostly still music. You know, I'm extremely passionate about music, and frankly, to some extent, it's my job. So I want to be on top of all these trends. I want to hear all this music. I love, you know, when the guys in Brazil tell me about something, or Korea, or Japan, and I just want to be on top of that. But I think, you know, maybe pandemic, lockdown, time for self-reflection, TED Talks, and sort of some of these educational or, you know, kind of personal growth type category. I've been getting into that, and I'm really enjoying it. So I'd say probably 90% music and maybe 10% that in the last handful of months.
For fun, to make everybody smile, because this is what happens a lot of time when progressive executives come to new platforms. If you can shoot it straight, I'm asking you for the real answer. The first time Musical.ly or TikTok hit your radar, when you were not in the ecosystem, did you dismiss it? Did you think it was silly? Were you on it? Like, give me that journey.
Yeah. So this is, I love this question because I like kind of thinking back to this. Look, I was in these label jobs, and one of the beautiful things about being in this, as a global business development person for Warner, I was the chief executive officer for Warner. I was meeting with every digital music platform around the world, seeing if we wanted to do deals with them. So I had an incredible perspective, and along comes TikTok, or it was Douyin at the time because TikTok hadn't launched. And I remember I was living in London, where I still live, visiting New York in our New York office, completely jet lagged, about 3 to 6 a.m. jet lagged, lying in bed, scrolling through these videos. Almost all the songs were in Mandarin or Chinese, but the videos and the sounds that I was hearing, I was completely obsessed. And the thing I thought to myself, I was like, music marketing is never going to be the same when you've got a thing like this that is just, 15, 30, 60-second clips. It's basically the hook, just getting one hook after the next being kind of sent your way. And you have the power to scroll through if you don't want to listen, or you just let it do its thing, sit back passively, and hopefully discover music. It was not a dismissal. It was a holy shit.
It was the other way.
My mind is blown, and I love this thing. And then, things happened, and here I am. So I'm very, very fortunate.
Oh, thank you for your time, my friend.
Yeah, great to see you. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
So Gary, we're going to welcome back Jim Malika, the CMO of Bose. Fingers crossed.
All right.
There he is.
Here we go.
See, Jim.
There we go.
Jim, I have the great knowledge of how handsome you are. So I have no way was I willing to do this without the world seeing that pudding, that face.
Man, killing me. You, I need you to remind my wife of that occasion. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend.
Jim, as I set up the question, and you can take it anywhere, Jim the guy, Jim the executive CMO at Pose, when we talk about future of music, audio, and sonic in a 2021 and beyond world, what are the first hot takes?
All right, give me one chance though first. You had Carrie on. We're talking NBA. You know no one loves the NBA more than I do. I gotta tell you. Clippers Bucks.
We got
That's
it.
the way it's
documented.
Grind, deep teams with their chips on their shoulder. This is the year. So book it. Okay, hot takes for the future of audio in 2021. I don't know. Look, being sort of an amateur futurist on these things, couple things that I think are interesting to me. I think this idea of podcasts, and Carrie brought this up, right, of the old storytelling around radio, that, as you start to see these things like 3D audio, where people now are starting to think about audio and formats and storytelling, where you're moving your head, you're hearing, elements from different directions, almost like the difference between a movie and a stage production. I think there's going to be some really incredible stories around that. I know people are playing with those things. I don't think it's ready for prime time, but I think it's another level of immersion and depth. Like, the thing that I really like about podcasts is how intimate it is, right? So I think that's interesting. And the other one that I think is really interesting is what you keep out, right? It's the noise that you keep out of your life, whether it's just distraction, stress, frustration, hearing loss. I think there's something around this, soundscape that you're able to curate that is really interesting to me, to help you for, whether it's meditation or sleep.
You're fairly new into the role of CMO at Bose. You were at Under Armour prior to that. What was the best pleasant surprise? You obviously put Bose. We all have you have your kind of intuition, your curiosities, probably some reservations. What was what was the most pleasant surprise when you walked into the four walls?
I could not believe the sense of passion and teamwork there was around the company. I had a sense, because when I was going through the process with the other execs that I had met, but when you get down into the teams, there is such a commitment to audio. It's just like a singular focus on creating the most, premium audio experience for people that just love music. That was just so real. It's something like, more than half of the company are musicians. So that was the thing that was just shocking me. Right? Yeah, you gravitate towards, your passion. And if you can work against one of your passions and help bring that, passion out for other people, there's just a real commitment there, which is amazing.
How's the team or the company thinking about podcasting, if at all? When I say that word in a Bose world, is there anything unique going on? Any clever things going on?
Well, I think it's too early to say, unique or clever. I think, I think there's a huge opportunity in podcasts with the growth of it to get more, not the live reads or just being able to immerse yourself in the topics. And really derive, authenticity around the content. And for a company like Bose to not be deeply immersed in podcasts is a total miss, because it's a different listening experience. It's interesting, when you guys were just talking now, thinking about music versus podcasts. I'm a huge music junkie, right? Followed my whole life on, what records I bought at what time. But I'm super passionate about podcasts too. It's just a different listening experience, right? Sometimes you go out for a run and you don't want to hear music, right? And sometimes you do. And I think there's a way that we can immerse ourselves in there, both from the standpoint of, helping people, achieve their passions, and then just attaching ourselves to that kind of experience and making it better. The biggest issue I have with podcasts is sort of how do you actually feel that the investment spend is super accountable, right? Like, at some
from
point
an
you're
advertising
saying,
standpoint?
yeah, just from a return on objective, right? Like, it's like, yeah, there's some goodness there, but it's not like you're match market testing or,
Yeah, I mean, I think it all depends on where you sit on sales versus branding, right? I mean, what's the return on objective when you put your logo on a billboard or on a sports team jersey? I think that's more on like, what's the conviction of the marketer inside?
Right. But at some point, you start questioning that. Like, okay, we got to do both.
Yeah,
we got to drive sales and brand.
Always, by the way.
Yeah.
Always the end of two things. One, everyone's commenting on the fact that they think you have a great podcasting voice. So from the feedback of the consumer, you may want to consider to start one because you're winning people over this. By the way, quick shout out to Montas Da, who says, guys, don't be fooled. This is not live. Eat that shit, Montas Da. Jim, number two, everyone's asking what you're wearing. What are you wearing?
These are the Bose Quiet Comfort earbuds. Incredible to block out noise and incredible sound. So
on that note, interesting question. Do you think you have a chance for explosion in business? Because I had a very weird meeting yesterday where we were talking about getting the office back up to speed. Me saying that when meetings are done, it's either rooms or Zooms, no mix. That if we do meetings where half the room is in, you see where I'm going? I will not approve meetings where 8 people are there and 3 aren't there because we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff, right? So I coined it rooms or Zooms, which then leads to a lot of people doing meetings at their desk, conference meetings with 9 people, all who might be in the office or might not be. And then Marcus, my chief of staff, who's always keeps me in check. People are like, you have anybody who challenges you? I'm like, fucking Marcus doesn't let me get away with shit. Says, yeah, but you know what? Even around your office, Gary, people don't want to work there because it's a little loud and Zach Nadler from Vayner Speakers is talking.
Yeah.
And I was a little concerned and think I'm like, wait a minute, we need to hit up Jim and noise canceling is going to become fucking huge.
Totally. So 2 quick things on that. Number one, I totally agree with you. The worst meetings of the world where you have part of the team on Zoom and part of the team live. Because what happens is
garbage.
Yeah,
garbage.
The people on Zoom completely disengaged, right? And they're not brought into there. And
Jim.
Totally.
And then you know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen? Then we're not going to take advantage of what we learned in COVID, which is to take advantage of these things. Better work-life balance, better realities, better. I want to make it awesomer for my employees, but that means we have to go rooms or Zoom, other way.
Totally. And look, also embrace some of the elements. I mean, there's been a lot of shit with COVID, and it goes without saying. There's been some hard times about not being able to get together with people, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've gone so deep on podcasts is because it feels like I'm talking guys at the bar, right? Whether it's business or whether it's sports or whether it's music. So that's helped me. But one of the great things about podcasts right now, I'm looking over your head and like, oh, it's a cool piece of art. That's really interesting. You get to know a little bit about somebody. Kid runs into a frame. Dog runs into a frame. There's some humanity there, which is kind of nice, right? You see a different dimension of people. These things around noise canceling, I think that there's an element of, it just allows you to lock and load, right? And if you can lock and load and focus for brief periods of time, that it's really, really impactful. And then disengage for a bit and refresh yourself. So yeah, totally. I'll set you up. No worries.
Love it. Love you, Jim. Andrew, let's keep this moving. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, take care. We'll see you later.
Thanks, Jim. Next up, we have Microsoft's Amy Sorokas. Amy is the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Microsoft, where she connects artists to fans, serving up creative tech tools that help the world make, listen, and experience music. Amy has also helped showcase social causes of artists, giving them a broader platform to spark change and do good. Amy's advice to anyone starting their career is don't compromise on your perspective just because it's different than your coworkers. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you. Nice
Amy,
to be here.
It's so nice to have you. I love that last statement. I am a buyer of that statement. Amy, let's get right into it because we've been running out of time with everybody because these 10-minute blasts, I want to get as much in. When I pose this question to you, What is the future of music, audio, and/or sonic branding in a 2021 world? How do you and Microsoft see that? Or do you even, Amy, as the human, not the executive? How do you take that in? What is this? What does this land in your mind, and how?
Yeah, I think the interesting things that are exciting at Microsoft and for me are really thinking about what you guys have been talking about a little bit about the connection between the fans and the music artists, and how the different kinds of experiences we're having, virtual mixed with physical, now is going to get interesting, and how people are thinking about expanding that connection point beyond when they can physically be together at a show. And obviously we've been exploring that space a lot in the last year, but in the total digital realm. So now as we start to blend, I think it's going to get really exciting. So that's what I'm really pumped about for the next year and beyond.
What do you think is going on? Have you actually, because we haven't touched on a lot of people, I keep seeing them ask it, sonic branding, the notion of a sound. Xbox obviously does that extremely well. Is it something on your mind? Is it something you think about, or is that still a little bit off to the side while there's other things to be thinking about? Is that's an emerging thing?
No, we definitely think about it a lot at Microsoft. We've had a history of really being considerate about our sonic branding, and that continues. When we think about the brand, we think about the voice, the look, and the sound. So I think that the team continues to dig into that and really consider how it comes to life across our products, our marketing, how we show up in the world in different ways. So it's exciting to be a piece of the puzzle in that, and think about that for a big brand like Microsoft with a lot of different products. So we do try to think about the connectedness there too, and sound's so important. People know what it is when they hear a noise in the distance, right? So it's powerful.
In your role, in the filter of this question, what is top agenda right now?
I would say in my role, it's really thinking about how we can use technology in really innovative ways with artists. So I try to do a lot of direct work with different artists and use our products and services and different Microsoft technologies, the whole toolbox that we have in different and unique ways. Sometimes pushing the product that was originally built for retail or banking or whatever it is, and taking it into a very creative space and trying to figure out how it can be used as a tool for artists' explorations and their expression. And that's a lot of fun. We get to push things around a little bit in ways that maybe weren't supposed to originally, but really helping the artists that we work with bring their vision to life, bring that crazy or innovative, wild idea in their mind to life and into something that their fans can experience, or they can put out in the world and be doing something very unique, hopefully.
I mean, I also find that Microsoft has a really long history with music, right? Is that outside your house?
It's my house.
Okay, good. Are they tearing down a tree, or the neighbors renovating?
Building things. It's Seattle. They're building things everywhere.
I literally went on pause. I'm like, what's New York City doing now? Okay, no problem at all. Just wanted to triple check. Amy,
sorry.
No worries at all. An incredible history of music in a lot of ways too. What about so obviously on the artist front, trying to do different partnerships and collaborations. What about on the podcast side? I don't feel like I have a great feel, and I'm kind of in the trenches. I don't have a great feel of the state of the union of Microsoft and podcasting. What's going on in your world on that front, if anything?
Yeah, I think, so for me, I think it's an interesting area to explore, kind of the things you were just talking about in terms of, 3D audio and sonic experiences that can stretch into the podcast world, that bring to life ways for people to interact or experience sound in really, really different, compelling ways. So we've been, Windows has a sonic engine as part of the services, and we've been experimenting with that with different artists. We did a project with X Ambassadors actually that was a music video without video. So we really relied heavily on the idea of how spatialized audio could play into that kind of experience and paint a picture without a picture. And so we're really, digging into that a bit and thinking about how that can play through into music experiences that also then would stretch into sort of the podcasting world and what could happen there. I think there's also really interesting bridges between what people are starting to experiment with audio podcasts having some kind of visual components and ways to experience them in different ways that obviously then needs a computer or a mixed reality device or something like that. So we're starting to kind of think about storytelling in those ways, which I think opens up lots of opportunities for the podcasting world.
And finally, what about Amy S., the actual human being, the non-executive? Where do you sit on podcasts and music? What are some of the things you're listening to, and or some of your favorite all-time artists in music?
Big questions there.
Yes, I'm dropping the bomb at the end here, Amy.
Podcasts that I've been enjoying, I really have enjoyed Michelle Obama's podcast. I love the humanity in that and learning about her and her friends and just opening up in that way. That's so great. I'd say, unfortunately, I probably am in the same boat of everybody else. I don't have tons of time to consume lots of podcasts. But music, I keep the music on all the time. All-time favorite band is the Pixies, hands down. My favorite current artists are Fontaines DC. You haven't heard about them. Out of Ireland, good rock kind of alt band.
The rock alt scene in general has a lot more momentum going on recently. It feels like that genre.
A few years ago, in my soothsaying, a few years ago now, it's probably been a few, at South by Southwest, there were a lot of bands wielding their guitars again, and it's happening. It's coming through now. So I miss getting together with people and seeing kind of what's up and coming and those kinds of environments and other, conferences and festivals and things, because you kind of can see where the directionally different paths of the music genres are going, because there's really no genres anymore. They're all a big blend.
Are you jonesing to just get back to the real world, quote unquote?
Absolutely. I can't wait for Numos to reopen in Seattle. I think that we're all missing the small venues and the big festivals, so can't wait for it.
Amy, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Excited to bring up our next speaker, Troy Carter. Troy is the founder and CEO of Q&A, a tech and media company focused on powering the business of music via distribution, services, and data analytics. Before Q&A, Troy was the founder and CEO of Atom Factory, where he nurtured the careers of global superstars, including Lady Gaga and John Legend. Welcome, Troy.
Thanks for having me. Gary!
What's good, bro? It's good to see you.
It's good. Same here.
I'm really, really happy to see you. I'm very excited to pose this question. You've had a long career at being at the forefront of many of these things. What's your current take on where music is in 2021? And then I'll ask you a little bit about podcasting and sonic branding.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a real mindset shift into independence. I think that mindset had been bubbling, but now I think we're seeing a significant amount of outside capital come into the music industry, but also you're seeing other tools that are starting to pop up. So I'm really bullish about the independent music space, and then also just looking at just the opportunities that blockchain is going to provide. I really feel like we're getting ready to hit this tipping point that's going to shift from sort of major label control to complete artist control. in a way that we saw the NBA take that shift from sort of being ownership control to player led. I think we're going to see something very similar in music.
Do you think that one day the players will have so much leverage in the NBA that they'll start their own league?
Absolutely. I think it's just a matter of time. I think the
you know how big of a statement that is, though, right, Troy? Because I think everybody who's listening right now can wrap their head around, with NFTs and blockchain, they're going to, these artists are going to not sign these bigger deals, and it's going to be managers or infrastructure or labels that adjust that will be partners in crime, but the economics will be different. I've been on this.
I want to see those 5 guys play those 5 guys, no matter what. So
listen. By the way, the reason I jumped in on this, and this may take up the entire talk, is I've been saying this for about 2 years. I've got videos on it. I get crazy emails like you're an idiot, and I'm like, you don't understand what I think I'm seeing, which is, you said it, leverage tilts. Really, the only leverage at this point that the ownership has is the places these games are played in, because they own a good majority of the venues, which I do not think is a big enough deal. Oh, by the way, because I'll go watch the 5 and 5 in Seton Hall's gym or the Garden. I'll watch it outside in the park and probably enjoy it more. Forget about them tomorrow. If the top 15 NBA players have this conversation, go find 15 billionaires. If LeBron's like, yo, Oprah, let's talk about this, and go in 50-50, where the billionaire puts up the money, all of a sudden, the World Basketball Federation feels very real to me in a way that I don't think people see it. I do think people see it a little bit more with music, but I think 100% it's going to happen with the NBA over the next half century for sure, which is a long period of time, but I think it's going to happen.
And it's actually a bit easier to do it in the NBA than music.
Correct. Go ahead.
And reason being is distribution for those 15 guys that you're talking about is pretty easy, because whether you're a network, streaming service, whatever, people are going to show up to watch them play. And in music, the issue is it's not 15 people, it's 70,000 songs a day that has to make their way through. So when you're sort of fighting for
they're saying now, look, there's 70,000 people that are playing. I play basketball every day too. There's to the same point, there's the superstars. If literally player number 49, the 49th best and most popular basketball player, hit up the next 20 guys underneath him and said, let's start a league, they'd be dead.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We need 1 through 15. That's where the tipping point is.
Absolutely.
Troy, when did blockchain and music opportunity, friction, innovation really click in your head in this last, forget about knowing about Bitcoin and Ethereum and all things like this, but has it been in the last year, last 6 months, last 4 months where you're like, because we all have these moments, right? I remember this late December, I'm like, oh, for my NFT thesis. In the last 6 months, which is a year, I don't want to lead. I want to know where it was for you. When were you like, oh?
So I met with the founders of Audius probably two and a half years ago, and they were talking about this idea of a streaming service built on blockchain. And what they were talking about is sort of how can we go after the music industry. The music industry has the most complicated rights structure that you will ever see.
It's absurd. By the way, it's one of the reasons I never professionally got into music. I'm like, fuck that shit.
It is absurd, and it scares people off. And a lot of it is purposely opaque and designed in a way where you can keep the system the way the system is designed. But when you really, peel back the layers on this, it should be much simpler. If Gary, if you and I make a song together, and we want to release it, it shouldn't be really complications around ownership. We did it together, right? And so when you look at how blockchain works, it was built for these particular situations. And when you look at being able to track and like royalties, things along those lines, direct relationships with fans is really built for it. But when Audius talked about it, I just knew it wasn't ready for major labels and they wouldn't go anywhere near it. But where they were smart, they went after electronic music and dance music where, you know, where it was lower hanging fruit. And now I think that I think artists have caught on through NFTs and kind of seeing what's happening in that space and explaining it to them is much simpler now. They actually see it in action. So I feel like the next 3 years, we're really gonna see this accelerate.
I agree.
There's a lot in it. And the record labels, like the biggest thing that the record labels have always had is a big checkbook and sort of distribution. And when artists when they feel like, hold on, I can make money off of this, I can get cash flow off of this, I can own my own audience, I got distribution.
Over.
What do I need you for?
Period. Troy, what about podcasting for you? Are you a consumer? When you think about podcasting, how does that play in your head?
I still think we're early. You know, I was an early investor in Gimlet that sold to Spotify. So I invested in them probably 5 years ago, and as a space that I personally love as a consumer, but it's the worst consumer experience I've ever seen in terms of curation. So where at Spotify they did an amazing job in terms of being able to figure out playlisting and discovery and I feel like in podcasting, no one's gotten there yet. So I'm looking forward to a better consumer experience in the space, but nothing I love.
You're looking for from a standpoint of curation?
Yeah, and not so basically, the way it works right now is that where if in music, they've done a really good job in music in terms of figuring out if I like a certain type of artist, I like a certain type of genre, I like a certain type of song, they made it easier for me to go through playlists and things like that to discover things in a very, very easy way. In podcasting, it might only be one episode that I like of a specific podcast, and so just really being able to match a little better and make the flow a little better is the discovery is just not there for me yet.
2 rapid fires around audio. The Alexa or the Google Home in the house, do you use, and is it still just a play this song and a novelty item, or do you use it functionally? And then 2, Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces. Have you played hot takes on both before I let you out of here?
Big fan of Clubhouse and what they built, and I've been on it since early part of last year, and just fell in love with the voyeurism of being able to bounce room to room. And I think it's going to be hard for other people to compete with what Clubhouse is built. So I like it a lot. And in terms of
the
Alexa, I don't use either, by the way. No listening devices in my house.
Because you don't want them listening?
I don't want them listening.
And you believe that?
Absolutely.
That is an incredible way to end. Troy, I love you, bro. Have a good day.
All right.
Next up, we've got Noel Chestnut Whitmore. Noel has nearly 2 decades of experience in the music industry, working for some great brands in music, fashion, and entertainment, including Katy Perry, Rolex, Chanel, Coachella, Jay-Z and Kanye's Watch the Throne Tour, and more. During the pandemic, Noel produced and directed Lion King, the musical, on Clubhouse. This went viral and led her to becoming the CMO of the GeoJam. But let's let her tell the story. Welcome, Noel.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to be here. I'm so grateful to be here. Hi, Gary.
Hey, Noel. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I think a lot of people don't know that story, so I think a lot more should. So I'm going to let you tell that story like Andrea set us up. Take it away.
Sure. So I'm a 32-year-old CMO, former artist, multi-instrumentalist, multi-hyphenated creative, turned tech CMO. I had gotten furloughed from Golden Voice, had been working in the live experiential space for the past 12 years, and then got furloughed due to the pandemic, and then stumbled on this platform, this new platform, emerging platform called Clubhouse, where I had looked into building additional activations. I have an organization called More in Music where I host panel discussions, and found this amazing user community, this people who I've been able to connect with in an amazing way. And then through the serendipity of connecting with amazing people on the platform, and hearing an amazing voice by the name of this gentleman named Chris Boogie, who literally sounds just like James Earl Jones, the idea of doing The Lion King came to mind, and in the spirit of bringing joy the day after Christmas, and literally had no idea what was going to be the outcome on the other side, and we trended number 2 nationwide under the NFL. Breaking a bunch of records, broke the app 2 times. We did 2 performances of it, and then it literally created this new landscape of how people engage and utilize the audio space on that platform, because we had created a specific use case that was unique in the sense of we use audio, live instrumentation, imagery, interaction, engagement, and what I'm calling interactive podcasting, which is this sense of ways that people can interact and engage and use their imagination to build this reality that they see for themselves, as well as ways for consumers to engage in new ways. And then,
please.
That is where, and then through that, I was connected to Sarah, who is the amazing CEO of GeoJam, who is a big fan of yours, by the way. And she reached out to me on LinkedIn, saw that I was furloughed, and here I am, now the CMO of GeoJam, and super excited and so grateful to be here.
I mean, how often do you think about, my God, this very challenging global pandemic that had all these difficult things, literally the circumstances of that completely changed the course of your life. You know, how do you think about serendipity and kind of being optimistic and kind of moving forward versus today, since you were just so impacted by it, versus who you are as a young lady prior to that? Does your perspective change on, oh, this is what happens when shit like this goes down?
Yeah, it's one of those things, like I've been asked this question because obviously my life has changed significantly. It's one of the beautiful things that when I took the moment to have the pause, the much necessary pause that was needed in my life to reflect and think about, how do I want to be intentional about how I move in this space? What are my core values? What do I care about? Who are the people that I care about? And as a person who is very moved by service of other people, it was one of those things where as this pandemic hit me, I knew how to pivot and to shift into the things that allowed me to bring joy to not only myself and spark this new creativity, but also be in service of things that allow, which is what I'm super excited about with GeoJam, allow their favorite artists and fans to connect in ways that have never been done before. When I started in the Lotta space, it was the joy that brought me, and when I did my first concert at 19, it was being able to create this level of escapism and being able to connect them with their favorite artists and completely remove any stress, any financial stuff that you may have been going through, anything that you have been dealing in the work environment, and creating, like I said, this escape and this experience that would ultimately allow for joy and just happiness and thankfulness. So that is literally what I've been doing my entire life, but I appreciated it at a whole nother level now because it affected me in a specific way that I had never affected me before, but it affected the world globally in a way where we had to make very intentional change as a community to how are we working and collaborating with one another, and how are we engaging and connecting on content, music, audio, and in a way that is safe, but also in a way that allows us to still have fun, which I'm all for having fun.
How does audio hit different than the written word or video in your opinion?
In my personal opinion,
Yes.
audio allows for a unfiltered interpretation and expression of self, right? You have these, when you're dealing with some of these other platforms, you have to think about your appearance and how you physically show up. You have to think about how the audience is receiving the content, right? Which there's still some level of consumption and thinking about the consumer. However, you are, for my case and specifically for my story, it's like I am literally my authentic, vulnerable self. This is what you get. And if you like it, great. But the beautiful thing about audio is there's a bunch of communities and niche that you can find whatever you're looking for. And I think the beauty of what is happening right now, not only within the audio space, but within music as a whole, is that people are looking for more reasons and ways in which they can authentically, vulnerably.
Do you I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you believe that the video support to the audio is leading people in such an aggressive way that just the audio has, on the consumer side, allows for them to have a more imaginative and potentially open portal to the consumption of the information?
For sure. And I think it sparks a childlike imagination that I think we all like. I think the beautiful thing with what happened with Lion King is obviously that is such a classic. That's an iconic movie. And though we had the visual representation and we had utilized the PTR, the changing of the imagery, to as a narrative for people to be able to have some sort of visual reference, you had to use your imagination as a form of building this narrative in your head while we were also painting this picture utilizing audio.
What about your own podcast or Alexa skills or your current Clubhouse navigation? You, the human being, not the executive. What's your consumption these days?
I am a content creator, not only on that platform, but also on the platform which I work for, which is GeoJam. I think the beautiful thing that I see about music, and whether it's audio in a podcast form or music from like a consumption of like songs from your favorite artist or an independent artist, I think the beauty of this platform and all these platforms is it allows for communities to be built. It allows for sharing of music that you may be familiar with and music that you may not be familiar with, as well as discovery. And then more importantly, what I think is super exciting about what we're doing at GeoJam is we're allowing for fans and artists to be connected directly. We're putting a fan on a private jet this Wednesday with 24K Golden, and they're going to be able to safely interact and engage with an artist in a way that they've never been able to do before. That's usually something that would cost an amazing amount of money, where through the partnership that we have with him, his team, and through the through line that is music, which is how fans are able to build this level of engagement and excitement about this artist, we're creating an intimate interaction that they are not able to get anywhere else.
I love it. You were fantastic. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
So excited to welcome our last speaker, Corey Marchesotto, CMO of Elf Cosmetics. We had to bring Corey back to talk about the elfing amazing things she's doing in the music space. Elf Cosmetics has caught the attention of millions through catchy music tunes, artist partnerships, events, and platforms like TikTok and Triller. Corey continues to show the world that anything is elfing possible. Welcome back, Corey.
Corey, did you make Andrea write that last line?
I did. I have to tell you though, Andrea has been using elfisms on her own since the last time I was here. She actually sends me with her own elfisms. So,
Andrea, by the way, your photos behind you are fucking amazing.
They are pretty cool. I was pushed down into the basement. I'm in my husband's band room, and he happens to have all these rock stars. So I thought, all right, it's not so bad today, right?
That makes sense.
Take it away.
Corey, great to see you.
Great. You too. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So let's just get right into the elfing possible of, how has this incredibly progressive marketing engine behind this brand leveraged audio and music?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is audio is fundamental. And I think on the road ahead, what you're going to see with audio is that it's going to be woven into the fabric of brand building. It has to be, right? And the way that this really happened at ELF and how we shifted it into the mindset, into the fabric, is we caught lightning in a bottle with our hashtag Eyes, Lips, Face challenge on TikTok. And overnight, we moved from being a beauty company to a global music sensation. And what I wanted to do is say, hold on a minute, let's not rear view mirror that, post-mortem it, take it as a success and move on. Let's translate this into more successes and find more ways to continue to make that magic happen, where we can be at this incredible intersection between the power of music and the power of self-expression, which is what we do through the beauty products we create. So since that moment on TikTok, when we really challenged ourselves to plunge further into the music space, you know, we were hanging out with incredible people at Republic Records. We were interlaced with UMG. We found ourselves in a new community. And we decided to plunge into Triller and become the first beauty brand to do a campaign there. And we know what everybody's doing on Triller. This is really a music platform that has democratized the art of music video creation. So we said, well, how do we play in this space? And we decided to drop a holiday album. So here we are, a beauty company dropping a holiday album with emerging artists. And the next thing you know, we look at the Billboard Triller charts and it's Mariah Carey, J-Lo, Megan Thee Stallion, and Elf Cosmetics. So it was just this incredible moment where we said, okay, we've caught lightning in a bottle again. There's really magic happening here at the intersection of imagination, self-expression, ways to experience that.
Do you feel that you and the team are just really over-executing on the attention and culture graph?
I think so.
You know, because when I look at the macro, I know this is a little side question, but I'm like a little bit curious my own damn self. Like, you know, like it's so obvious what you're doing since I've lived that life for the last 15 years. Like, you know, this is obviously one component of that. But would you say, if we're leveling it up, because we have a lot of marketers watching, at a higher level, whether it's music, whether it's TikTok, whether it's dancing, whether it's video, whether it's gaming, your North Star right now is, where is the underpriced culture and attention, and can we authentically go in there and navigate and be creative and contextual to that environment, correct?
100,000%, and incredibly well said. The starting point, though, on that journey is really important, because everybody's got a starting block. The starting block is, as individual employees, think beyond your role. You also have to think beyond your brand. And what I would add to that is think beyond your industry. So as you know, we love elfisms. I love to say elf the rules. Where does the magic happen? The magic happens when you...
Corey, I like to say fuck the rules. I don't know if you know this.
Right now you're going to say elf the rules.
No, I'm going to say fuck the rules, but I'm going to support and cheer for your version of elf the rules. Go ahead.
So that magic is when you paint outside the lines. So I would say that's the starting block, is just get rid of the borders and the boundaries. The second part is this mindset around, you're not here to sell product. You get that out of your head, right? What is it that we're trying to do? Create an orbit that people want to be a part of. So what I like to say is that Elf is an entertainment company that also makes makeup and skincare. And when you have 10 million people showing up on your doorstep every day or coming to your platforms, you have to be dynamic. You have to be multifaceted. You have to create something people not only want to come to the first time, but want to come back to time and time again. And I would say the third part, right? So now that you're at these magical intersections, you've created this orbit that people want to be a part of. The third part is to really think about your marketing levers as seduction. So I like to say marketing is the seduction part, commerce is the sex. Well, guess what? You can't get to sex without seduction first. So if you think about it like dating, you're not going to get very far if you take somebody to the movies every single night, right? No, one night it's the movies, one night it's a restaurant, one night it's a concert. It's the ability to seduce multiple senses. And for me, audio has to play a critical part of that, right? It's sight, it's touch, it's sound.
Will NFTs be taking someone to the museum for a little culture?
I think NFTs, I actually listened to your Clubhouse last night on NFTs. I think it's a super fascinating space. that is really going to be here for a long time. And a lot of brands like TikTok, right? People were afraid of it. What do I do with it? How do I plunge in? I think a year from now, nobody's asking that question anymore. They're playing.
Court, let's go into you, the person. What is your podcast, music, audio experience? We can even add Clubhouse and even Alexa and Google Home if there's anything there. Give us the breakdown of the state of the union of how you roll as the human, not the elf executive.
Yeah, so the way I roll is, first thing I do when I wake up is I listen to podcasts when I get ready in the morning.
Really?
And I do. I love podcasts. I just, heard, I think it was 2 people before this one, not loving the discovery experience. I totally agree. I think the search engine and the discovery on podcasts is just, I don't know why nobody.
And what are you doing? Spotify or Apple or something else?
I do Apple and I do Spotify. I do both, but I have my trifecta in the morning, which is the daily. And then I go into What a Day, because I feel like that's the news with a shot of tequila, and I need that because after the daily, I need a shot of tequila. And then if I have enough time, NPR, and then obviously Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway. I'm completely obsessed. I know you had Kara this morning. So I take that in the 2 days a week that there is. So that's how I get ready. I'm doing my makeup, I'm listening to these podcasts. So I've already got all that in my head, and then I go about my day. And then the other ways in which I'm playing with voice, I've got Spotify music on all day. So that's in the background, and I'm changing that according to what meeting am I going into. I feel like now that I'm working from home, I change it according to my moods.
Are you consuming more, less, or the same podcast with COVID? More.
And then layer on Clubhouse, I didn't trade anything off to get there, so this is another more. This is an incremental add.
What lost during COVID from you?
Probably time with my husband.
Great answer. I love the authenticity. That was helping funny. Go ahead.
Yeah, I find Clubhouse to be a fascinating experience because it's as if I was listening to Pivot with Scott and Kara, and now I can actually jump in and ask a question and engage with them live. And that's something that obviously didn't exist. I think Clubhouse did a great job finding the white space. What'll be interesting from here is now that everybody else is going to put that technology on their platforms, who's going where and what does that look like?
I think we just went through it with Snapchat. Snapchat found the white space.
Yeah.
Everybody created the feature, and Snapchat innovated and still was the core place along with Instagram stories for that. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Clubhouse. It's going to be on Clubhouse to need to innovate. I don't think Instagram's multiple people video thing is right. I do think Spaces for Twitter is. I do think Facebook Inc. follows it literally. And we'll find out. Corey, it's really good to see you again. I love you. Is that a scarf? What is that officially called? That's a scarf?
That's actually a scarf, yes.
Okay, good. I like your scarf.
Thank you. Great to see you, Gary.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Gary. And thanks everybody for joining us. Did you know, Gary, we're taking Marketing for the Now on the road to Australia next?
I did not. Tell me.
So on April 28th, we're going to be interviewing 6 business leaders from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern on April 28th. Interestingly, it's April 29th in Australia. That's how it works, I guess. They're always a day ahead. So really
am I doing that?
You are doing that, Gary.
I'm doing that?
With Amy Bradshaw. Yes, you are. And then we've got our 1-year anniversary episode on May 6th from 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern. And that's a surprise episode, so we'll be sharing a little bit more about that later.
Andrea, is the Australia episode an Australian market-centric?
That's right. Absolutely.
And I'm doing that.
You are, with Amy Bradshaw.
With Amy Bradshaw.
You'll be ready.
I'm wonderful to be in that market. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. A lot of good stuff today. I hope you took away some good stuff. Please check out Marketing for the Now, MFTN .Vaynerx.com to sign up and register. Make sure you miss none of these because I guess we're going global now. And we had some real great guests. Andrea, you and the team, congratulations on that. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and we will see you soon. You can catch me on Twitter, Gary VEE. I'll be going there